Hello, boys and girls. Got another video for you fine folks on the internet. Another installment in the Matthew Buckley Talks music series. The first, I believe, first double album I've reviewed in the series. We got Richard P. Havens, 1983, by Richie Havens. Released in January of 1968 on Verve Records on the Verve Forecast imprint on vinyl and cassette. Reissued on vinyl in 1970 by MGM Records, and given its first CD issue on Polydor Records at some point in the 90s. I was not able to find a definitive release date while doing my research, but at some point it was issued in the 90s. By Polydor, and then issued as an Australian import CD in 2008 by Raven Records, and European import CD in 2017 by Floating World Ltd. So a little background on Richie Havens for anyone who's not familiar. He was born January 21st, 1941 in Brooklyn, New York, to an American Indian father and a Caribbean mother. He expressed an interest in music from an early age, and in his teenage years sang with the McCree Gospel Singers. He was drawn to the folk music clubs in Greenwich Village, and after picking up guitar was signed by Albert Grossman, famous for connection to Bob Dylan, to Verve Records' Folkways imprint. He specialized in folk rock arrangements of popular songs, mostly by the Beatles and Bob Dylan, as well as mostly acoustic-centered originals such as Handsome Johnny, which would go on to become a staple anti-war anthem. His reputation earned him a spot on the Woodstock lineup, going on to open the festival as the first performing artist on the first day. So that's monumental. And his performance was shown in the subsequent theatrical Woodstock film, presenting Havens to a worldwide audience. But it was in the months before Woodstock that he recorded and released this album. Side 1 opens with Stop Pulling and Pushing Me, a full band arrangement, kicking off the album with a bullet. A groovy, bluesy, psychedelic rock song loaded with Havens' ruminations and frustrations and confusions of the world and the people in it, struggling to keep it together in a world where he constantly feels he has to tell people to stop pulling and pushing him. It's a great groovy rocker, just kind of short, but that was probably the idea, get it on the radio. The next track, For Haven's Sake, begins with practically no break between the tracks and is a much more subdued and soft song. Much slower, with meandering lyrics that at first glance could be about one's state of mind in the days following the end of a serious relationship, spending days waiting for the lost lover, spending nights reading letters and love notes of the past. That's at least how I interpret it. It's vague enough with all the imagery of sinking in sand, but interpret as you will. In the last couple minutes, the song's sound grows, and the band turns up the dial a few notches, and it almost sounds like the room is bigger. Perhaps reverb was simply applied in the mixing, but either way it adds to the effect when Havens sings about sinking in sand, grain by grain, sounding ever farther away in the vast void where all that exists is the sound of the band thumping away. As the song fades, there are some psychedelic effects thrown in for good measure, a touch of reverse backmasking. The next track, speaking of backmasking and effects, is Strawberry Fields Forever. It's a splendid cover. Havens' vocal delivery is unique but totally true to the spirit of the original. There's some arguably superfluous instrumentation added to what were originally post-chorus breaks of silence, but it works. Definitely a highlight of the album in its own way. The following track, What More Can I Say, John, is the first outright anti-war song on the album. a lumbering, melancholy lament of the people in power during the conflict in Vietnam, hiding themselves from the judgment of the public who think wealth will buy them all they need. Each verse ends with the refrain, "Hey, come on, you've got something better to do." Which, while a plea to the politicians, is a powerful refrain, no matter how you slice it. It's a very simple and straightforward, but very good song. End side 1. Side 2 opens with "I Pity the Poor Immigrant," a beautiful and tragic Bob Dylan song. This reading is lovely, given a luscious arrangement centered around piano and coupled with a powerful and impassioned vocal from Havens. This is a really killer cover. The next track is "Lady Madonna," the second Beatles cover song on the album, arranged around acoustic guitar as opposed to piano. A very stripped but energetic reading. Percussion amps up progressively in the last minute or so of the song, and it's a short but fun cover. The next track is a Leonard Cohen cover, "Priests," which is given a stark acoustic arrangement. There's minimal accompaniment. The tone is appropriately dark. It's a very solid cover. There's really not too much I can say about it. You should listen to it if you want the full effect. The next track is "Indian Rope Man," an original that picks up the tempo with a full band arrangement. And it's a real, genuine psych rock jam. There appears to be a story loosely told through the verses about this Indian rope man who appears, well, you have to kiss him quickly because he has to part. Pardon me. It's a rockin' groovy song, which, fun fact, is actually best known, arguably, in a somewhat reimagined and retitled iteration, "African Herbsman," which was written and recorded by Bob Marley. Now you know. The next track, "Cautiously," is another slow song, but still keeps the full band arrangement. It's a lumbering tale of cautious love that is perhaps understood differently by both parties involved. There's a very cool organ solo in the middle of the song as well. And the song was actually written by Lotus Weinstock, comedian, author, musician, and actress known for being engaged to controversial and influential comedian Lenny Bruce in the year leading up to his death in August of 1966. It was after his death that she became serious about spirituality and music in efforts to heal from the loss. But all things considered, it's a great song that she wrote, and Havens delivers it with finesse and emotion. End side 2. Side 3 opens with "Just Above My Hobby Horse's Head," which was issued as the album's lead single in September of 1968, with "Indian Rope Man" as the B-side. A socially conscious reflection on the cosmic well-being of society. Sitar is utilized to great effect throughout the song, and it has a great overall message. It comes across as honestly uplifting. You could define it as cosmic, psychedelic rock. I love it. The next track is "She's Leaving Home," the album's third Beatles cover. The arrangement is based around the piano, again, true to the spirit of the original, even without the orchestra and layers of harmony employed by the Fab Four. There's a healthy dose of slide guitar in the choruses. It's a lovely song, a lovely cover. The tone changes completely, pardon me, with the next track, "Putting Out the Vibration and Hoping It Comes Home." Sitar and tabla introduce and form the basis of the song, instrumentally speaking anyways. There are extensive effects applied to Haven's vocal, and this is definitely the most psychedelic song on the whole album. Very much in the spirit of the 1960s peace and love zeitgeist as far as its lyrical content. The next track is "The Parable of Ramon." It begins quietly, stark acoustic guitar building to Haven's lengthy and dramatic recitation of a hardened and forsaken man who, spoiler alert, takes his own life along with his wife and mistress. The song is performed live on stage, and after an extended instrumental passage for the outro, abruptly cuts in the midst of audience applause, suddenly ending side 3. And side 4 opens with those very same applause suddenly cut back in, and after some tuning and stage banter, in which he requests audience participation, Havens jumps into his own custom introductory passage for the album's 4th Beatles cover, A Little Help from My Friends, which is simply sung by Havens as do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and pronounced hums, doos and hums. He continues to urge the initially somewhat hesitant audience to sing the lyrics of the song in his place. But it's lots of fun. You can tell the people there were having a good time. The next track is another cover, this time by singer-songwriter Donovan. Wear Your Love Like Heaven is a wonderful song, given a very affectionate reading by Havens. I could go on at length about this song, but we'll simply say that the sentiment of wishing for a kiss to wear someone's love like heaven is a beautiful thought. The playing is sublime, the song is lovelier than I can say. A medley of 2 songs follows, Run Shaker Life and Do You Feel Good. The first, Run Shaker Life, is a traditional song that was arranged by Havens and was initially issued on his album Something Else Again in January of 1968. This performance is a lively, percussive, heavy folk rock reading, reminiscent of his Woodstock performance style. After an eruption of audience applause, Do You Feel Good begins with wordless vocals from Havens and in-time crowd claps. Havens even starts a vocal call and response with the crowd. The bass and percussive players start a riff in the undercurrent as Havens starts asking the audience, "Do you feel good?" And, this was clearly a lot of fun for everyone involved. Not quite as much fun on record, but still a very cool moment to hear captured for posterity. One can very easily visualize Havens departing the stage as the band vamps on, much like he does in the Woodstock film. Applause, end side 4. So, final thoughts. This is a stellar album. An accomplished fusion of singer-songwriter and folk rock, psychedelic rock, Indian raga, and blues stylings. Havens plays an assortment of instruments himself as well, acoustic and electric guitars, sitar, tambura, and ondioline, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a sort of electric keyboard. The album was produced by Mark Roth, a frequent collaborator of Havens, who co-wrote a few of the album's originals with Havens. The album actually peaked at number 80 on the U.S. Billboard Pop Albums chart and was uniquely ambitious for its fusion of studio and live recordings between separate sides of vinyl, beginning with the last track of side 3 being recorded live in the entirety of side 4. With one Beatles cover on each side, fans of the Fab Four should be able to dig the association. Plus the Dylan, Donovan, and Leonard Cohen covers are all so rich in their arrangements and delivery. They're all highlights in their own right. So let me get you a closer look here. The cover is just a very nice image of Havens laying in the grass, and the colors have been tweaked so the grass is purple and he looks almost blue. It's a very nice cover, nice aesthetic. The inside gatefold has a picture. Let me see if I can get an angle without glare. There we go. Nice picture of Havens there. Big one on the other side and a much smaller portrait on that side. Also with funky colors, but it's all good. And there's the back cover, a nice on-stage picture of Havens, his silhouette against a light. Very cool. And I'll show you just the first record label. Don't need to pull both of them out. So, There you go, the Verve Forecast label. Side B. So yeah, this album is super solid. You know, great covers, great originals, solid delivery. There's honestly not enough good I can say about this. And for anyone, you know, who isn't already familiar with Richie Havens, you should get familiar, because there's a lot of good I can say about Richie Havens. So, all things considered, you know, even for a double album, it doesn't feel, you know, bloated or overly long or anything. And some of the tracks actually are pretty long, but it doesn't drag. So, I would easily rate this album 8 out of 10, a solid 8 out of 10 rating from me for Richard P. Havens, 1983. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, folks, if any of you are any of you familiar with this album, or are you at least familiar with Richie Havens? If you've seen the Woodstock movie, you should be familiar with Richie Havens. But yeah, let's get a discussion flowing in the comments. Thanks for watching. This has been Matthew Buckley Talks Music with Richard P. Havens, 1983. Music is the best.